Welcome to the West Hartford Public School Board of Education. It's Tuesday, February the 15th, 2022. It is now time for our regular Board of Education meeting. Before we get started, just want to say thank you all that are here, and please know that we do have an overflow room in the auditorium, so those who do prefer to sit, there is seating available, and there's live streaming of this meeting taking place in there as well. As we begin, Charlotte, may you please call the roll?
Dr. Chang.
Present.
Mr. Goldman.
Present.
Dr. Harris.
Present.
Ms. Nezzarella.
Present.
Ms. Poland.
Here.
Dr. Steinberg.
Here.
Dr. Thomas Farquharson.
Here.
Student Representative Andrew Maglio.
Present.
Student Representative Avery Woods Weber.
Excused. Andrew, may you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do not have a revision to the agenda order, and we now will proceed to our public communications. This is an opportunity where we're able to hear from you, your thoughts, and things that you would like to share. Please be mindful as we eagerly want to hear what you have to say. Please do so in a respectful way. And also be aware that as we are attentively listening to you, it is policy that we do not respond to your comments at the time. Each individual has 3 minutes to make their comment, and we have a total of 21 minutes per subject matter. As you are sharing, once you are down to 1 minute left in your time, Charlotte will hold up a yellow card to let you know. And when you see the red card, that means your time has expired. And if you please can respectfully take your seat at that time. We have a list here of several who have signed up. And again, I will share, we have an overflow room in the auditorium for seats for those that desire to have a seat, and you can view this meeting taking place live as well. First, we have Addie Lorden. May you please come, and as you come to the podium for each person speaking, please do share your name and your address.
Addie Lorden, 561 Park Road. Good evening. I would like to speak on the curriculum and Policy 1700, which was adopted on March 25th, 2015. It states in part that we will develop and ensure the teaching of a curriculum that enhances the understanding of Native American cultures. We were promised in 2015 a curriculum based on Native American culture and history, and we have not had it developed or delivered to us. So I asked the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Mr. Vicinis, at what point can we expect that to be rolled out? Why is there no rush or urgency to provide it? In fact, our third graders' elementary school newsletter, dated 11/2021, made no mention of the fact that November is mandated as Native American History Month. In the Policy 1800 Educational Equity Policy, it states, special care will be taken to ensure that students have ongoing opportunities to see their identities represented positively in the curriculum. Our curriculum should reflect all our diversity, especially in this town that is so diverse. Equity is for all. The same equity policy states, we pledge to partner with all families in the service of the success of each child. This was adopted in 2020. Parents' questions go unanswered, and our children's voice is disregarded. In fact, parents feel bullied and intimidated to the point of fearing retaliation. This stems from the fear that hiring is based on cronyism and not merit. Mr. Duarte, I know that you are new to your position, but this is a real concern about parents. What you know determines who fills positions and leads to the sense of our voices are silenced. I ask that you seek outside overseers to review previous employment practices. We parents no longer want answers. We demand them, and we will go outside the state to find them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Anita Araklian. Pardon if I mispronounced your last name.
So what I am presenting to the various people, it's called Freedom of Information Request. It's going to Dr. Farquharson, Mr. Moore, and I will be emailing it to Ms. Hewitt. I am requesting, in written form, expenditure for changing the names of warrior and chieftain, and I've listed financial detail, actual expense that have incurred from July 1st, bids received, and the contract of the vendor or vendors if a contract has been signed. Please note that we do know how much money will be coming. That was already published. We don't know what our expense is. Second, expenditure for textbooks, workbooks, and test materials, and I give details on what I would like to see. Third, expenditure for instructional improvement for the 2020 to present day academic years. So you have been served now with Freedom of Information Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have David Wolpaw.
Thank you. My name is David Wolpaw. I'm a physician, a primary care physician in the greater Hartford area. I have two daughters at the West Hartford schools, one at Bristow Middle School and one at Hall, and two daughters of mine also graduated from Hall. I'm speaking both as a physician and as a father of West Hartford students. First of all, the great schools, and we've been very happy with the West Hartford public education they've received. I'm speaking specifically about the mask mandate. First of all, in no particular order, I'll go through what I want to say. I am in favor of masks. I think masks do have a role in helping stem the tide of COVID. And in fact, I was, in my own job, the first one to start wearing a mask before it was required as a physician. But I do not believe, and looking at the evidence that I've read, that a universal use of masks that is supported by the evidence, certainly not in schools. If you compare schools that have mask mandates to those who don't, you don't see you don't see a significant difference in the rates of COVID transmission. However, masks have been shown in scientific studies that are increasing in number, more coming out every day, that they do have harms on children. Special needs students especially have a hard time learning if they're forced to wear masks, and their teachers are as well. Hearing impaired as well, if they are not, that can't benefit from trying to read lips. Masks lead to increased anxiety and fear. And they do affect the socialization, the development, and growth and psychological health of children. Also, at least teachers that I've spoken with, some have definitely reported that it distracts from teaching if they're constantly having to tell students to pull up their masks, and it becomes a game with the students to try to work on that with them instead of teaching the subject material. I've heard people say that many students don't mind wearing masks, and that's great for those students, but some do, and I think they should be allowed the choice of whether to wear them with speaking to their parents what's best for them. The one final thing I want to say is to try to quell some of the hysteria that we see about COVID. COVID actually is a very little risk to children. There have been children that have gotten very sick from COVID, to be sure, but the actual risk is actually quite small. I looked this up right before I came here. This is from the Connecticut website, the COVID tracker. There were 157,316 cases of COVID in people under the age of 20 since the pandemic began. Out of that, there have been 7 deaths. So if you compare that to deaths from other certainly every death is a tragedy, absolutely. I don't mean to say it's not, but you compare that to deaths from suicide, car accidents, childhood cancer, things like that. We're focusing on something that is comparatively smaller. I think kids need to return to normality, and that's why I think we should do everything we can to end the mandate. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Patty Fleming.
Hi. I'd like to start by thanking, saying how
Patty,
thankful.
pardon,
Yes.
your name and address, please.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Patty Fleming, 34 Linwald Drive. I'd like to start by saying how thankful I am that the board has made the decision to end the mask mandates as of February 28th. Since I've been following your policy decisions, I have to say it is the only good decision I have seen thus far. I would like to take this time to address the chair. Last week, you commented in an article regarding the decision. I quote, "It certainly was not done with ease. Any decision made regarding our young people has been done with vigilance because it is our priority to care for their safety and well-being. So decisions have been made based on the science and recommendations of our experts." End quote. Madam Chair, I'd like to know when exactly this decision was made. The Board of Education has not convened since the meeting on February 1. I'm confused as to how the board came to this decision considering you haven't met in 2 weeks. Concerning policy, which this body is responsible for, it should be a matter of public record where each of you stands. You are all elected officials, and as such, are required to have the highest standards of transparency and responsibility to the public. This decision appears to have been made unilaterally, which troubles me, quite frankly, because that implies you can unilaterally reinstate the masking as you see fit. The truth is, most people don't think it's your decision to make anyway. A recent survey of Connecticut residents suggests that approximately 72% believe that parents should decide whether their children wear masks. They overwhelmingly reject that it should be left to local officials. Residents were also asked, should mask use still be mandated for unvaccinated students and staff? Over 65% responded no. Over 65% also believe school masking should not be linked to COVID-19 metrics, such as local case rates. The truth is, these mask mandates are not expiring because we're any safer. They're expiring because there is a shift in public opinion. People have seen the hypocrisy of elected officials like Stacey Abrams grinning ear to ear for a photo op with dozens of masked children behind her. The science concerning COVID-19 has not changed, only the politics have. People are tired of being manipulated and lied to, and they're starting to demand their lives back. We're tired of the rhetoric and narratives that have been crammed down our throats for over 2 years. Never forget 100 days of masking. You guys remember that? We should never force our young people into this position again. They need to heal. They need to get back to being kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Getch Dyer. Pardon again if I mispronounced your name.
Hello. My name is Getch, 56 Gillette Street. So, misery never ends under the Democrats' rule. Back in the days, our ancestors were dehumanized by the Democrats. I do not want to go to deep history lesson now, but it suffices to highlight that those transatlantic slave traders who were purchasing blacks in Africa from the Arab Muslims, the re-enslavement of Stephen Douglas, the Dred Scott Supreme Court decisions of the late 1850s were all the works of the Democrats. We heard saying that the saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I would say shame on us for being fooled again by the same criminal party. Just last week, the Connecticut Democrat majority has sold our kids to the federal government for a few $1 million by granting emergency power to our tyrant Governor Lamont. Because the rights of our kids are exchanged for money, our kids are denied their freedom to breathe in class. Being incentivized by this corrupt federal government money, our kids are not receiving quality education because the schools are busy pushing all sorts of absurdity. By design, our kids are stupefied into mastering pronouns, right? How pizza can be equated to sexual preferences, LGBTQ indoctrinations, all kinds of stupidity in public school. Data shows our kids are lagging behind international students in STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths. That's a fact. Why all this is happening? Because of the lunatics in the Democrat Party, the Board of Education.
Excuse me, sir. Pardon me.
Superintendent.
Excuse me, sir. I'm going to ask, as you
And the school
continue-
system.
Excuse me. I'm going to ask for you please to speak with respect. And out in the area, please, be respectful here as we are listening to our speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm talking facts.
But please just be mindful of how you're delivering it.
I speak only the Why all this is happening? Because of the lunatics in the Democrat Party, the Board of Education, Superintendent, the school system, working in tandem against our kids and with the parent. So we need the schools to be schools again. That's what we all need for our students, our children. Please grant our kids the fresh air they deserve to perform better in schools. Please clean all our schools from all garbage indoctrinations. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll say once again, as we very much want to hear the speakers, please, those of you that are listening, please be respectful as well as you are responding to what is being said. We have young people that are here and young people that are watching. We certainly want to model appropriate behavior for them. Thank you. Next, we have Jean Wiggins.
Hi. I prepared a speech tonight, but something came across my desk about 6:15 tonight, and I just wanted to inquire about it. I'm hoping you can address it during the meeting. Apparently on Channel 8, WTNH today, there was a list of towns that were mask optional, mask mandated, holding public hearings this week, waiting on state regulations. And I know that Tom Moore has said that we will be going mask optional. But on this list, we are on holding public hearings this week, and I have heard nothing about it. That's a mistake then? Okay, all right, good. All right, I just was alarmed by it because it's totally the opposite direction than what I was going to say, or what I am going to say. So anyway, good evening. I'm here to thank, unfortunately, he's not here tonight for us to thank him, but Superintendent Moore for putting children's mental health, which has been an ongoing concern of mine. Can you hear me? Oh.
Your address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jean Wiggins, 6 Middlebrook Road, West Hartford. So I wanted to thank him for putting children's mental health first and committing to going mask optional next month. I believe the majority of parents of West Hartford, children are ready to remove the masks. And for those who are not ready, I am confident West Hartford administrators and teachers will do a great job meeting the children where they are. Since I received your email, Tom Moore's email, last Friday, I've had multiple conversations with friends who have children at various points on the mask scale. Many children are ready to rip the mask off. Others might need a few more days of transition. And then there's a contingency of children who are afraid to show their faces. To me, this is alarming and demonstrates that we are doing the right thing by going mask optional as soon as possible. I'm hopeful that going mask optional, and by default, the removal of fear and a return to normal, will result in an immediate decrease of crisis interactions and mental health issues among our students. I'm sure there will be a ripple effect over the months to come, but I know this is the right decision for our children and our community. Thank you for doing the right thing, Superintendent Moore and the Board of Ed.
Thank you. And next we have Eileen. Thank you.
Thank you. Aileen Panarella, 73 Bainbridge Road, West Hartford. So I'm the mom of 5 kids in the West Hartford Public School, but I'm talking specifically today about my youngest, my 5th, who is a 5th grader at Morley, who told me that when she feels like she needs a breath of fresh air and she cannot go outside because it's not her time, that she goes into the girls' bathroom to remove her mask and take a deep breath of fresh air. So I would like all of you to try that, to go into an elementary school bathroom and take a very deep breath of fresh air. And I want to know, why are we waiting? Why can't we take the masks off tomorrow? I'm not getting any information. I didn't see any information in the email that explained why we are waiting. Just take them off. My other concern is that the masks are one of many restrictions that are still in place. The email from Tom Moore did not mention when any of those restrictions were going to be lifted and why they are still in place. At Hall High School, every other seat is available in the cafeteria. The seats have actually been removed. Why? Why? What is your criteria for that? And when are you going to, when is it going to be reconsidered? When is that going to end? At Morley Elementary School, my daughter does not get to eat in the cafeteria every day. Most days, she has to eat in her school, in her classroom with her mates. They seem to go every other week. And at KP Middle School, there has been assigned seating due to COVID restrictions. I did not see any mention of this in the email. What is the basis for those restrictions? When are they going to be considered, and what is the criteria for that? I still don't see a junior prom on the books or a senior prom. When are all those restrictions going to be lifted? Let these kids get back to normal.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment, whether here or those that may be viewing in the auditorium? Any other comments? All right, we shall continue on to unfinished business, which we have none. Going on to new business, the proposed calendar for the 2023-2024 school year. This is our first reading. And the recommendation is that the Board of Education review as a first reading the proposed calendar for the 2023-2024 school year. So Dr. Murrow, passing it to you, please.
Thank you, Laura. So, as you know, we look ahead when we're preparing calendars, when we're preparing schedules. And so this is your first read of the proposed calendar for 2023-24. And we go ahead and adopt 2 years ahead of time so that we have a chance to really reflect input from the board, from educators, and from parents. And there's many different variables, but we look at when religious holidays fall, whether or not it's possible to combine holidays with school vacations. We also, I think it's important to remember that when holidays may fall during the school year that are not on vacations, that we remind staff of religious holidays and observances such as Lunar New Year, such as Eid al-Fitr, so that staff are aware of this for homework and for exams. And that's been a practice we've had for many years to respect the time that we're there with families. And so if you look at the calendar, you'll see that it meets the standard of our 182 instructional days. It starts, as we have been starting, that Wednesday before Labor Day. We found that that's successful for us, and then it ends that first full week, really beginning of that second week in June, consistent with this year. So if there's any questions, if the board has any variables they'd like to look at, we're happy to go ahead and do that.
Thank you so much. Questions? Yes, Ethan.
Yeah, just a question, and I apologize, I should have looked before. I see Yom Kippur there, I don't see Rosh Hashanah. Is it that weekend?
I believe that that time, when looking at it, it fell on a Saturday and a
Okay.
Sunday.
All right,
That's
I'll-
sometimes that happens.
No, no, absolutely.
Because of the
Okay.
holidays, yeah. But we definitely check all of that.
I
yeah.
assume that.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, it starts on the evening of the 15th, which is a Friday. Starts Friday night.
Should have looked.
Other questions? All right, well, this is a first reading. The next time we will look to approve, so thank you so very much. Oh, yes, please, Deb.
Thank you. Just one question as well. The second week of April, can you refresh my memory? This is a goal that we have to try to match up our April vacations with the other school districts in our region. Is that
Yeah.
right? To have it always be the second week of April when possible?
Yeah, if you remember right, there was much more latitude with the calendar until about 4 or 5 years ago, when the state proposed, like you had said, within educational agencies, so within CREC, there is a common calendar so that students who may be in magnet schools for transportation, for half-day programs and such, are not on different schedules. And so there is that consistency that's been put in place. And it gives us a little bit of leeway with start dates, with end dates, but within that framework, we try to keep as consistent as we can.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much. Now moving on to staff communications and reports. We now will hear our superintendent's report from Dr. Murrow, who is here to honor us. So please, your turn.
Thank you, and again, it's nice to be with you tonight. So I want to start off by recognizing Lori DeRocher, who is a kindergarten teacher at Northfeld, who has been awarded, and only one out of 117 recipients in the nation, who has been awarded the Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science from Connecticut in the science teaching category. So this really represents the 25-year-plus career and the strong contribution she's made to the teaching profession, and is well-deserved. And I think it's also important, and I know Paul can talk more about this when he's up here for the computer science, but it really highlights the impact that our early educators have on our math and our science development with students. It's rare that a kindergarten professional would receive this, and it really is a true testament to her work and a testament to the work that the district is doing in this field. So we're very proud of her for that. As you know, and we'll talk a little bit about it, the Connecticut legislature voted yesterday to extend the governor's mask mandate in schools through the 28th. And I think it's important, and it may be a misconception even going on this 2-year that we've been dealing with this, that this mandate was not the board's. This was not ours to determine. This was a governor's mandate, and the governor has given that authority for the executive powers away, allowed that to expire, and the legislature voted to extend that through the 28th of February. At that point, the mandate will expire and masks will be optional. And so understanding that there's strong opinions on both sides of this, and people have been uncomfortable with really any changes that have been made over the past 2 years, but we've always trusted and followed the guidance from the Department of Public Health and the Department of Education, and it's their opinion that it's time to move beyond the mandatory masking into an optional phase. So we will maintain, as Tom explained, the other mitigation strategies. Will continue to report cases on our dashboard as the weather changes, and hopefully will soon. We'll continue to utilize, again, our outdoor spaces. We still have our voluntary testing program. that the state has not informed us is going to be changing, that we have roughly 800 students participate in each week with their parents. And it's completely understandable that many students and staff will be wearing masks for a variety of reasons, and we will go and make sure that no one in the community should feel uncomfortable for choosing to wear a mask. As we've explained in the past, it bears repeating, our vaccination rates are in the top 5 of any community in the state, far outperforming the local, state, and national averages for school-age children. Our case numbers are plummeting, certainly from what we saw when we returned back in January. I believe in checking it earlier today, we have a dozen cases that we're currently tracking across the district, and when you factor in 11,000 individuals, both students and staff, I think that's pretty good. And I think we're comfortable going forward with the optional masks. And again, we'll continue working with the state. We'll continue working with the local health district. We'll keep an eye on rates and progress for that. Are there any other questions that I can answer on that? I know that there's a lot of change in the past 2 weeks with the governor's announcements and the state's approach.
Yes, well, thank you so very much for re-explaining that, how we got to this point. And certainly, as we know, that we have been following the executive order from the start of the pandemic until now, and that certainly applies to the mask mandate. That is something that we had to follow. It was, as Dr. Murrow has shared, was something that we had to follow that because of it coming from a state level. And with things with the recommendation being for that to sunset in February, that applies throughout the state. And so with that applying throughout the state, that means that any district that wants to reinstate a mask mandate, they would have to go through their procedures to do so. And that, as we know, Board, that applies to us. If there is a concern to reinstate the mask mandate, and we certainly know that we are vigilant, as we always have, in looking at the numbers and looking at the science and the data and following the recommendations of our experts. And if there is an increased acuity as time moves forward, that at that point in time, within our purview, we are to reconvene where a vote to reinstate the mask mandate will be considered. So that is where a vote would come into place. As of now, we certainly will continue to be optimistically cautious. We all are aware of our young people that are in our schools, that are in our communities, and this is something that we certainly are moving forward with optimism, but cautious optimism, that is. So, board members, please, questions, comments. Yes, Claire.
So what would be the role of the Department of Public Health going forward? It's very confusing, all these decisions and votes and everything. So going forward, what is the role of the Department of Public Health?
Yes. I'm locked out. There we go. Okay. So the way that all of this has worked, and it has been a little confusing, is that the governor's emergency powers grandfathered on the 15th. Okay. And so the legislature went ahead and voted that there be an extension of this mandate and not others. Some they allowed to expire. For example, the mandate of unvaccinated workers testing on a weekly basis was allowed to expire on the 15th, and the 33 people that I track on a weekly basis that have been doing their testing and so forth, that's no longer required going forward. The legislature and the Senate went ahead and voted that they will extend the mask mandate portion, and it's now considered legislation. It's now law. Instead of the governor's emergency powers, it's now law until the end of the month. And on the 28th, that then expires, that legislation expires, and then it becomes up to the district and up to the Department of Public Health has that authority from a statewide standpoint. If there was a need, the Department of Public Health could go ahead on a state level if there was a need and implement a mask mandate or a mask recommendation at the state level. So we continue to get input from them I spoke with them this morning. At the state level, we have a weekly call with the Department of Public Health, with the State Department of Education, because there's a lot of questions that we still, as all districts are working through. What does this mean as far as some of the quarantine guidance? What does this look like in classrooms? How does this change some of the guidance that they've provided? Because their guidance has been based on the standard of 2 individuals that are fully masked. So what does that look like differently? And so we're still working through that with them. They assure us that they're going to have answers to that shortly. When they do, that's the information that we'll put on and update our website and our COVID dashboard.
Okay. And then, as far as public transportation, was that law changed?
That was not. Public transportation is still under the mask requirement. And so buses are considered public transportation. And so we've already conveyed that information to the bus companies. They are all aware of that. But students and staff and any adult is still required at this point. And again, that's up to the state to determine when that goes and becomes no longer mandatory for public transportation.
Other questions?
Yeah, a point of clarification. So after February 28th, the state has the ability to reinstate the mask, or is it up to us?
My understanding is it's both, Ethan, and again, we can certainly hopefully get more clarification from the state. My understanding of the legislation, and again, it's not even dry yet,
Okay.
is that districts have the authority to do that on a case-by-case, if need be, based on different regions or based on different data and so forth, or different concerns within a district. But the state, also the Department of Public Health, has the right to, again, to declare a health emergency and to do it through that measure, is my understanding.
So that's what's holding up to the 28th, the state?
The legislature gave the authority to the State Department of Public Health and the State Department of Education to, based on their recommendations, they went ahead and put it in place until the end of the month.
So based on that right now, assuming that doesn't change, then the mask the mandate automatically goes
Correct.
up.
It grandfathers on whatever the last day is, the 28th.
Right.
Correct.
Thank you. Just one general comment, if I can make it, not really a question. From my perspective, I would have liked if we could have made a positive or negative vote on the subject. I'm happy with the outcome, but I just feel as policymakers, we should be taking the vote, but that's me.
No, I understand that, but it really,
No, I'm not arguing with you.
technically, though, legally, it's not the board's vote to make, in that it's a state law.
No, after the 28th.
After the 28th, sure.
Yes, sir. Yeah. No,
That's your decision, but it goes away on the
I got
on the
it.
28th.
So it's by default.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, and just one moment. And to that, though, after the 28th, that certainly may be a possibility. If we are to reconvene to consider reinstating the mask mandate, a vote certainly would apply.
I understand.
Okay. Yes, Gail.
This is sort of following up on what Ethan said. There was an article that was printed this week that quoted both our chairwoman here and Tom Moore. And the article said that Tom Moore said that this is essentially a board decision whether or not we go mask optional. It would be a board decision. And it was also quoted in there that, it was a very hard decision for the board to make. There are other districts that have taken a vote already on this in their Board of Education. So it's confusing to me that we would not be making an affirmative decision here with an actual vote that we're going to go mask optional, but we would be taking a vote if we were to reinstate the mask mandate. So it seems to me like it's either one or the other. We make the decision on both ends, or we make the decision on no ends. But if we're going to be making a decision on, hopefully not, but reinstating a mask mandate, it would also make sense to me that we would be making a decision to remove the mask mandate.
Claire?
From my understanding, though, the board never made a decision to mandate masks. And we're not making a decision to unmandate masks. It's always been a state decision. So the only issue would be whether we as a board wanted to instate a mask mandate. So if that is something we want to do, then we would put it to vote. But if we want to go along with the state and follow what the state has decided and not buck the state, then there isn't a vote to be made.
So, no, and I'm not looking to reinstate the mask mandate, but it was quoted in this article that Tom Moore said that this is a Board of Education decision, and it was also quoted that the board had made a sort of come to a difficult decision. I think that was sort of very confusing because the board never really made a decision, but the article stated that the board had made, with difficulty, a decision.
So thank you so much for raising the question, or the comment piece, because we certainly want to try to have clarity, amongst us all. And so in terms of the comment made about the board's decision, that is in regard to anything after February the 28th, anything in regard to issuing a mask mandate, that is a board decision that has to be made. In regard to the comment that was made of this being a difficult piece, that's because, as we know from the pandemic, I don't just want to stare at you, I'll share all of us, we know throughout the pandemic, any thoughts about this, responding to the pandemic, has been difficult because we're dealing with our young people, our staff, our teachers. And so as we know, we have our formal board meetings, but we certainly know that we try to maintain open communication in the interim, whether it be caucus or me meeting with you as well, and you and Ethan as well. And so in regard to steps moving forward, it's a matter of recognizing what the state is doing in terms of sunsetting the mask mandate. How shall we proceed from there? And so that is where the difficulty is, because right now we know come February the 28th at midnight, the mask mandate sunsets. And so collectively, what we have discussed and collectively what we have explored is having it sunset, however, being very vigilant in being aware of the acuity of mitigating factors being adhered to in the community, and also in terms of our metrics, in terms of hospitalizations, in terms of our vaccination rates, in terms of our positivity rates, continuing to be mindful of that. And we're so thankful again for the dashboard sharing all of that information. And if there is any increase in acuity at that point in time, we will reconvene to explore whether we need to re-implement the mask mandate. So all of those decisions are in queue because we don't know. What we do know is that come the 28th, the mask mandate does sunset. And what we do know is that we want any steps moving forward to be having our young people to be safe, and that will continue to be our primary focus. But appreciate so much you sharing that and any other questions or clarity that may need to be sought after.
So just to be clear, I'm fine with the outcome. I just feel like we shouldn't, I guess it's difficult for me to say, I sort of feel like we let Tom take the hit, positive and negative. And I know we assume he doesn't have a problem with it, just seems like it's something we should be making a decision on, but I'm good and didn't mean to cause confusion.
You did not cause confusion. You are a board member, so we want questions. We certainly want to process through. So thank you for sharing. Yes, Gail.
Sorry. Thank you, Lorna. I agree with a lot of what you said, but I do feel that it's exceedingly important, especially when an article appears in the paper that's stating that the board has somehow come to a decision, and the superintendent is saying that this is a board decision, and then we're sort of saying it's not. So, I think that being very transparent and clear with the public, particularly on this issue, is exceedingly important. And I'm not, obviously you didn't write that article, but wherever that article came from, I think it was exceedingly confusing as to whose decision this is and how it's going to be made. I just want to know.
Nope. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Other questions or comments? Yes, Jason.
Thank you. Let's see. So right now, vaccines for the 5 to 11 year old category are available, widely available, and there are the ability to make appointments for those are relatively easy to make. But I'm wondering, when a 5 and younger vaccine is approved, are there any expectations or plans for the district to do a vaccine clinic?
That's a great question, and as you've said, 65% of our 5 to 11-year-olds are vaccinated. Almost 99% of our 12-year-olds and older have had at least their first shot, if not both. It's important to remember that while we hosted clinics, we don't run the clinics, and so the clinics are coordinated through the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District. And so I would imagine, as we've done in the past with successful clinics at Whiting Lane and at Charter Oak, once that vaccine is approved, or if the vaccine is approved, if there's a need for that, we will go ahead and work with the health district to have that. Usually, we've been doing at evening clinics. Or at an off-site on a weekend, we've been using not Charter, we've been using Conard for adult clinics. And again, we coordinate this with the health district, with emergency management, with the town. We offer them assistance, we offer them some staffing supports with our nurses and such, but it's really coordinated then through them and through the state.
I see. Mm-hmm. Thanks for the clarification.
Yep.
Other questions or comments regarding our superintendent's update? Oh, yes, please.
I just wanted to update about the mascots, because we started that process last week, and I'm sure Andrew can share as well. But last week, the Hall Encountered principals reached out to 8th grade through 12th grade students, inviting them to participate in their school's naming of a new mascot. And the goal, as we outlined with them and as they outlined with the students, is to create a mascot that represents the community, and the school's community and the school's ideals that are embedded in their vision of the graduate. And the suggestions then will ultimately be reviewed, voted on by the committee of students, teachers, parents, other community members, with the goal, as the board has stated, of choosing new mascot names by the summer. And as an incentive, the student whose mascot name at each school is selected is receiving a small prize. We also provided space on the form, the Google form, for students to upload original designs and artwork if they'd like, which has been really interesting as well. So currently we have, it's been about, Andrew, about 4 days, 5 days? It was like Wednesday, I believe, was when we did it? Yeah. So Wednesday, since Wednesday, we have 225 student entries from Hall. Not to bias, but the leads seem to be following a trend. The Blue Jays, the Whalers, the Blue Whales, significant amount of interest in dropping off the Coney the Whale out front and killing 2 birds with 1 stone for the town, which, okay. Well, we're not going to get into that, but we can repaint it. So at Conard, there's about 180 entries so far. They seem to be focusing on cardinals, cougars, and my personal favorite, the Conard Cobras. Just because you get to call the student section the snake pit, which would be kind of cool. So that's about it. That's where we're at with that. It will be open another 2 weeks for student input, because we really want this to be a student-centered and student-driven process. And there's been a lot of good encouragement by this. Again, we also reached out, the principals reached out to the 8th graders to make sure that they're participating, because these are the students that are going to be coming in to the buildings, and it's been very positively received.
All right. Thank you so much for that update as well. Questions regarding the remainder of the updates? Ethan, yes.
I might as well do what I was going to do later. Request is there'll be time and money spent, and the money, I know that Tom Moore had said his estimate. Is it possible to go back last week and going forward, just be reporting in either the superintendent's report or in the finance report, just on a monthly basis or meeting basis, what the time being expended is? We made a decision. We should be accountable for what the outcome is. I realize it's time spent, there's not a dollar on that, but I think it's important to know how much time it took.
Yeah, I'm happy to, maybe we can talk offline and figure out what exactly you're trying to capture, because, again, it's, I can certainly develop the time that the principals took and developed a form, but that's...
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, we could talk.
Okay.
Just the overall
Sure.
tracking of time expenditure.
Sure.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Yes, Andrew.
This is just about the process of creating the new mascots. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the February 1st meeting, it had been said that after students submitted initial names, and a panel or two panels, one for each school, would then deliberate and end up picking the name that was ultimately used. Could you just specify how long that process would take once they have the names and then are deciding, and who would be on that panel?
It's a good question, Andrew, and I think that's one that the principals are working with their leadership on and working with their PTOs. And I know at Conard that Mr. Hines has met with students. I know that he's meeting with parent groups as well. I think what our goal is to have the names be student derived and come up from students. And then once that's the case, that's when we'll sit down and we'll put together the groups that represent all of the community aspects of that represent the parents, that represent the athletes and the coaches, and that represent the students certainly, and the teachers and the faculty and the other support staff that we have in the building. Because I think it's important for them to then narrow that down. And then really the decision then is at that point, working with the schools, is it more of then do those final names go out? Is there a consensus between those or not? And so we'll get to that point. But right now we're just trying to get as many people involved as we can in as far as students trying to really generate those ideas and generate that enthusiasm. And one of the nice things on the form has been the section where we've asked, well, why? Why is this an appropriate mascot, and how does this connect and really represent our community? And so there's been some really thoughtful answers to that, which I think has been really good to see.
Thank you. And Deb, yes.
Sorry to bring it back around to masks, but you had indicated that we'll be hearing more guidance from the State Department of Education and/or the State Department of Public Health on certain things like if somebody comes back from having COVID, if they need to still mask for a few days, or if everybody in the class might need to mask, how we do contact tracing when we don't know who's wearing a mask and who isn't. Do we expect to get that guidance before February 28th? Or are we kind of going to be on our own for a while?
No, and that's a great question. And again, that was the first question that was asked this morning in the meeting. They are, as with every other health district and every other group around, they have this in a draft form at the state level. They're reviewing it. They are going through all the different scenarios because, as they said this morning, we really want to make sure we get it right, and we're not having to then go back and modify it between now and beginning of March, because we know how important it is. And so their goal is, again, they weren't able to get it for today, but their goal is to have it very shortly. And they assured everyone that it would be shortly. So I would hope within a week we would have this.
Claire, yes.
Yeah, and I just want to state, I appreciate the comment about teachers not having to track in their classroom. Being in a classroom of 24 kids, it's very hard to tell which 5 are going unmasked, which aren't, and so it's up to the kids to follow through on what the parents want or what the kids want, but it's very hard for a teacher to monitor that and track it all day long.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments?
Yes, one more. Sorry. One more. If the board did want to take an affirmative vote to instate a mask mandate, what would be the process for us to do that? I'm not suggesting that's what I want to do. I just want to know what the process would be so that the public knows.
My understanding of the way that the situation is, and again, we may get further clarification from the state, is that it's certainly within your function, and it would simply be a motion to go ahead to, you'd have your justification, you would outline, and it would be a simple vote with that. Now, when the further guidance comes out, they may decide that it would have to be it would be considered a policy change, in which case it would need a first and second reading. But in the nature of a health situation like this, my understanding from the preliminary information that I've received is that it would be a simple proposal and a simple vote by the board.
Thank you, and that would need to appear on an agenda, so the public would see ahead of time. None of this would be happening in the dark.
Correct.
The public would see an item on an agenda for a future board meeting, that this would be an item for discussion.
Correct.
And vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jason.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm wondering if in the recommendations from the health district, if they've passed along any benchmarks of that we would want to keep in mind of if cases rose or new variant occurs, what are the conditions in which masking would be recommended, or if they would make that recommendation or just provide numbers? Yeah.
That's a great question. We don't have that information at this point. Again, I don't want to have a crystal ball on this because we've been down this road before. We've been doing this now since March of 2020. There is a sense that if there was a statewide public health issue again of a new variant or a situation like that, that the Department of Public Health would step in at a state level. Left at a community level, various places are looking at various metrics, caseloads, positivity rates, vaccination rates, and so forth. I would feel strongly and would hope that most would agree that this community has done extraordinary things to keep everyone safe. And between the work that we've done, between the vaccination rates and so forth, I feel that we're in a good place going forward. And unless there were significant changes, and again, we would take into consideration also recommendations from the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District and the other groups that we are in consult with, that unless there's significant changes like that, that we're not looking at a specific, well, if this number is hit or if this number and so forth, because there's too many variables at this point with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions, comments? All right, thank you so very much. Continuing on to our personnel report, and we have the inaugural presentation of this. Thank you so much. Mr. Duarte, welcome.
Thank you. I hope I don't disappoint.
Certainly not.
So good evening, everyone. Our personnel report can be found on page 7 of your packet. So I'd like to take a moment to just summarize the purpose of the personnel report. District policy requires that we update the board every single month on changes that we have in certified staff. And certified staff includes teachers and administrators. So as you can see in this month's report, we've hired 1 contracted teacher, 5 interim teachers, 5 interim teachers and 2 interim administrators. Again, the difference between a contracted teacher and an interim teacher is that when we hire someone on contract, we're hoping that they're with us for the long term and they're hired here. When we hire someone on an interim basis, they're typically filling in for a staff member that may be out. I'm also happy to report that I've been tracking the absences regularly since taking over in this new position, and even in the short time I've been here, I've seen a pretty steady decline in the number of absences, so I am cautiously optimistic that that'll continue, but I would feel remiss if I didn't just send a big heartfelt thank you to all of the staff back at all of the schools and their work and effort to just make sure that school keeps running every day. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions that the board may have.
Thank you so much. Questions, teammates, comments? Deb.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm sorry, I should have thought to send you this question in advance so that you'd be prepared with an answer. But can you maybe later on provide us with some diversity statistics on these hires?
Yeah.
As you know, it's a goal of ours to try to diversify our staff, and love to see how we're doing there.
Sure, absolutely. I can comment certainly on the two administrative hires since I know them both personally. Mr. Hines and Ms. Tamarilla Noble both meet that, so we're very excited for both of those as, I think that takes on, and for Conard and all of our schools, but especially Conard, I think that's really important to have leaders that students can look at and see themselves in them. So I think that's something that I'm personally proud of, and I know that the entire executive team is very proud of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? All right. Thank you so much. Wonderful job. And with that, I now am able to interpret the nonverbal communication I was receiving. I apologize that I went to the second item as opposed to the first item. So thank you so much for your flexibility. And let us...
I thought you wanted to do a little other way.
No. So with that, we now will have our computer science program updates. And coming to the table, we'll have Mr. Paul Vicinis, the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, Ms. Jackie Coricelli, the Curriculum Specialist for Computer Science, and our wonderful students, Kevin and Alexandra. So welcome.
While Paul's getting this set up, if I could just, this is exciting for us, and Paul is anxious, and I know Jackie as well, and thank you for coming tonight to present this. But you may remember that this is really an initiative that we started and then kind of got sidelined by COVID and all of that. And so we've really been trying to integrate computer science throughout our curriculum, and it's really something that I think we can be very proud of, and really going forward can really continue to be a showcase.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy. And I echo that, excitement for this presentation. I want to just say a couple of words about the team that are here. I'd be remiss. Jackie is not only a computer science teacher, she is a leader in computer science both at the state and really, I dare say, she has influence at national levels. She is the vice president of the Connecticut Computer Science Teachers Association. Locally, she's a trainer regionally for conducting needs assessment and really strategic planning for computer science. She's worked with a variety of districts to include our own district as we developed our plan. She's had work with the College Board. She's worked with the State Department of Education on their strategic planning. I can't say enough about how thrilled we are to have her in this position to help lead some of the work. And Kevin Srinath from Conard and Alex Frosnick from Hall, two students that have some computer science background that were nominated by their teachers to be a part of this presentation based on their motivation, their excitement, and their engagement with peers as part of our computer science ambassadors program. So I'm really, really excited to welcome them to the table and to have the opportunity to meet all of you and help with questions. Very quickly, the scope of our presentation tonight, we're going to talk just very briefly about what computer science is and why it's important, and then the bulk of the conversation really about updates regarding our ongoing efforts and how they feed our long-range focus for computer science. So I start just with a quick kind of comment about what computer science is, because there's a lot of, I think, a lot of fallacies out there, a lot of assumptions that people make, especially older people like myself, that didn't necessarily always grow up with the computer science and the influence that it has in the real world in the same way that our students do. And that's important because we have to understand what we're working toward and the vision that we're after that I'll put up on the next slide. But it's a vision for Kevin, for Alex's future. It's not a vision for my past or Jackie's past. And it's an understanding that computer science, it's not just about the hardware. It's not just about the boxes and the wires. And dare I say, when I learned computer science in high school, it was punch cards. It's not about that. It's not about the software, learning how to operate a program. That historically has been a big component of our, computer technology curriculum as we've grown up. And it's not only about coding. Coding is important, how to write software, how it interfaces with the user experience. It's all of that and so much dramatically more. It's about understanding and creating technology. And there are skills that we try to teach within computer science that promote creativity, collaboration, and communication. So computer science is so much larger, and I'm sure the folks to my right can speak to it with much greater prose than myself. But we developed, and I was glad to be a part of this team alongside so many individuals in the district. We had our equity leadership team. We had special educators, elementary and secondary teachers, math, CTE teachers, school counselors, library media specialists, who came together back in 2019 when we named computer science as something that we wanted to be not just a leader in the state, but Tom talked about a bold mission where we would have really national prowess in computer science education and the importance of that based on the relevance of this work. It happened to coincide, interestingly, and not by design, but in 2019, the State Department of Education also published a document that you can look on their website, a plan with strategic efforts to grow computer science in education in the state of Connecticut as a whole. And there are a number of strategic efforts that they've been working with that we've actually had some involvement with. But it was during that time that the board saw fit to establish a curriculum specialist position, and we met with a team of folks to really craft a vision that I kind of left up here. It was in the report for you to read, so that we understand at the end of the day, our bottom line is we see computer science as a foundational skill, akin with reading, writing, basic numeracy. Kids need to have basic understanding of computer science beginning at the elementary level in order for them to be good consumers and creators of technology, because that's the world in which they'll live. And it's sort of seeing that in this graphic. The intent is that we really recognize the integration of computer science across all fields. Recently, Tom had conversations with recent graduates, and the one thing, and I know he shared this at the board table, the one thing they said, and it was students that didn't go into STEM fields, students that didn't go into computer science or something that was overly technological, saying, wow, they didn't realize the reliance on the data analysis, the reliance on some of those computer science skills that were going to be necessary in their field as they embarked into college level studies. And had they would have taken that course. They would have gotten more background in that within high school. And that's the charge that we have to make sure that we can provide that vision and understanding. And as you read in there, in the report, kind of the prevalence of jobs that are requiring these skills. In Connecticut alone, there was an October 2020 report, the Governor's Workforce Strategic Plan, and it named computer science and programming as the top tech skills needed in the state of Connecticut. At that time, that's a little bit dated, a couple of years ago, there were 6,000 open computing jobs within the state, with a future demand projected to be 13,000. This is important stuff. And so we recognize that, and I'll turn this over to Jackie, who'll talk about some of that importance, and then talked about the updates that she's specifically been leading in the district.
Hi. So the part of the presentation that I'm focused on is really why is computer science important? And I just wanted to introduce you to someone who's really important to me. So if you could just hit the next, thank you, and maybe one more. Oh, no, not yet. Soon, sorry. Okay, so first off, as Paul alluded to, in Connecticut here, we have 6,000 open computing jobs, and we have only 564 computer science graduates. That is that's a problem that needs solving. And we have so many students here in West Hartford that are amazing, creative, wonderful thinkers. These positions need those types of thinkers. I'd love to do everything that we can to be able to help, to be able to fill some of those needs here in Connecticut. Here in West Hartford, we have some exciting statistics, but also I think it's important to see them as there's room for growth too. So here in West Hartford, there's 47% of the class of 22 that have taken or have currently taken a computer science class. That's super exciting. If we were to take that same statistics 5 years ago, I know the numbers would be much less. And if we compared this to other districts across the state and nationally, I know the numbers would be less. Nationally, only 50% of schools even offer a computer science course, one. We have 8 for students to be able to choose from, which is fairly amazing. 33% at the high school level, 33% of females in the graduating class have earned some computer science credit, but that is our area of most need in terms of growth. Our most underrepresented population in our current computer science classes is our female population. And that's actually why I wanted to introduce you to my daughter. So this is Genevieve. She is now 13, but here in this picture, she's 5 years old, and that's when I started this whole journey. So to me, and probably if I could rewind even further back, long before that, my dad is a long-time middle school teacher. He taught for 35 years. He's been retired for many years now. But for me, public education breaks barriers. Public education creates opportunities. Things that weren't present for past generations are present for future generations because of that public education. And I'm sort of living proof. My grandparents never went to high school, but my mom and dad did. My mom never went to college, but I had that amazing opportunity. To me, this is the next inequity that needs to be solved. It is wrong that when I graduated from UConn, I still hadn't taken a course in computer science. And I had to work extremely hard when I was hired at Raytheon. Because ironically, I'll tell you this quick story. I was at a career fair and a person from Raytheon just came up to me and said, "How would you like to make a fax machine work?" And I thought, that's cool. At the time, it was cool. It was, and so I said, "Yeah, that sounds amazing." It was a long time ago, but I had never taken a course in computer science, so I had to work so hard, long days, long hours for 3 years to be able to fill in those gaps. Kids should not have to work that hard to be able to gain this knowledge. And so to me, this is an inequity that we can right here in our school system, and if any system can do it, we can do it here. And so if you fast forward, this is her now at 13 years old. I've ridden horses my whole life. I, of course, wanted to help her to be able to appreciate that love, but it's also really important for her, my muse, and for so many other students, all of the students in West Hartford, to be able to make this opportunity available to them that wasn't available and open and welcoming to me. Let's fix this together. And so we have some exciting updates for you. And this is a broad stroke, so you're welcome to kind of, read this over. I created a video to help us to really drill down on the things that we're most excited about in the more recent time that I think will narrate a lot of what we've done over the last year or so to be able to make this magic happen. Yeah, please. hopefully you could tell the feeling of teamwork. This is what's happened over the last year. There's some other pieces of things that have happened along the way too. A couple of things I could call out is Camp CS. For the first time last summer, we had a team of elementary separate, and then middle school and high school teachers that met to look at computer science standards and began to think a little bit about how to integrate doing a little bit of a computer science activity. So that was the first time we'd ever run that. We'll run that again this summer. But at this point, I think we'll take any questions or anything. I think this is you.
Yeah, I hope the video highlighted a number of things that were on that updates page to include, the websites, the tutorials, the ambassador program. I'm certain we'd like opportunity for you to be able to engage with the students and talk about their experience, but we'll open it up to any questions and discussion you'd like to have as a board.
Wonderful, thank you, and I'm sure we will have some. Teammates, questions, comments?
I had a question.
Ethan, yes.
Do you track, and I realize this is relatively probably new, do you track how many kids, what they major in college, how many major in computer science, and then coming out of college or 5 years later, what people are in? I just figure it'd be interesting, particularly where you're stressing STEM, to see how many kids are going into it, and then are we increasing the number, or is it,
That's excellent. Ethan, we haven't yet, I don't believe that we do tracking by, in terms of their college degree, but that's certainly not a bad idea. We are starting to look at what are the metrics by which we track certainly our participation and where we've been, where we're going, what some of our benchmarks are, what some of our goals will be, and establishing those targeted goals. We do obviously have certain tracking that we do at the college level that pertains to college acceptance, college persistence, but that's a great idea to really think about, especially if our goal is to have this global, what's the level of preparation and how can we get some statistics around what that's meant, whether that's a computer science major or just a good computer science preparation and be able to get that feedback loop back. So definitely something for us to think about.
I would also do 5 years later, because I know, one of my majors was what I would have thought. There was another major I had that was totally unrelated to anything I had done before.
I do have anecdotal evidence where I have several emails that I'll get back, and I know my colleagues, other computer science teachers, we have several in both schools, will get emails periodically from students thanking us for offering computer science courses because they felt like they were much better prepared than their peers that didn't have a computer science course. And they'll share how they were prepared for an interview or they landed their dream job, and it's because they know they can trace it back to taking AP Computer Science A, for example, at the high school level, that it's made a difference in their lives. And we have a CS is Everywhere speaker series that we started offering last year and then again this year, and several of the people, not all of them, but several of them have been alum who have come back to talk. It's a virtual speaker series where people talk about how computer science is connected to multiple fields.
Yeah.
But
I'm just thinking if you can track that, you'll see if you're making progress, particularly a couple of years out. So.
Thank you. Yes. Other questions? Claire and then Jason.
Yeah, not to put the students on the spot, but would you like to share anything about your computer science experience or your plans and what you've seen changes in your high school and middle school time?
Certainly. Hi, my name is Kevin. I am a student at Conard High School, and one of my areas of interest for college, I am a senior, by the way, is to go into the computer science field. It has always been something that has been of interest to me ever since I was in elementary school. I remember doing little projects in the Library Media Center at Charter Oak with Ms. Cochran through scratchandcode.org, and that was really fun to me because it was a way that I could, make games, tell stories, all through my own, work with code. Even though back then it was just simply clicking and dragging a block, it was building the fundamental knowledge that I needed in order to understand higher levels of computer science that I'm currently learning right now in AP Computer Science Applications at my school. Through this district, I have really learned a lot with computer science, not just in the software world, but also in hardware. I was a part of my middle school's robotics team at Sedgwick. And to further my knowledge, my freshman year, of high school, I took Exploring Computer Science, back when it was a full-year course, and it really allowed me to dip my toes into everything that computer science had to offer to see what I truly liked. And I really did take a liking to the software part of computer science, and that is why I'm currently taking AP Computer Science A. I really love the course, and I really love everything that I'm learning, and I'm really thankful for this district for all the courses that they offer to allow me to deepen my knowledge, to further prepare me for what I will be studying in the future. And I also know that this entire field is super diverse, and I know that I do have passions in the arts and in music, and I know that there is technology behind that that has computer science embedded within it, and understanding those concepts will help me be more proficient in that in the future. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a junior. So my story is a little bit different from Kevin's. So I actually, if you asked me a year ago if I wanted to take computer science like this year, I would say like I don't really know what that is, like no. But then, so a lot of my friends were like, yeah, like I'm taking computer science this year, like the teacher's super cool, the class is super fun, like you should try it out. And so I decided to try it out this year, and it's something that I've really enjoyed. And like now I'm going to be taking a class like next year for like in computer science, even though like that's something that I never thought I would be interested or wanted to do. And like I'm now in the position of me telling all my friends like, oh yeah, computer science is so cool, like go try it out. And I have a lot of friends who are so like they're really interested in taking one of the computer science classes next year. So.
I just want to piggyback. I love that, one of the things that these folks are doing, and Jackie alluded to it in the part of the presentation, though, as part of the ambassador program and the Lieutenant Governor's Coding Challenge that's coming up later this year, the intent is to have the student voice at the high school level mentor and provide some of that, question and answer, that motivation and that positive influence to spark interest in our middle school students through some direct mentoring within the Lieutenant Governor's Challenge. So it's just something, just great student leadership that's really helped folks to be able to see what's out there, to be able to take those risks, and to hopefully find some interest.
And I just wanted to say too, the one benefit of the pandemic, I believe, is our Zoom capability. And through your mentoring ability through Zoom, transportation's always hard to get out of class and to get to another school, but we're able now to connect our schools and our seniors and high school students with our middle school students through Zoom. There's all kinds of worlds being opened up through that kind of influence through technology.
Jason, and then Arlie.
Yeah, thank you. Paul, Jackie, Alex, and Kevin, thank you for sharing. This is really exciting. This is a new area for me to learn about too. And I was really interested in, Jackie, in your background on strategic planning around this field, in the sense that, with an ambitious goal of being a national leader, what are some things that would distinguish this program as a national leading program? For instance, is it the course sequencing? Is it the variety of courses? The level of the preparation of the teachers? I'm sure it's all of these things. But if you could kind of spell that out, so we can get a sense of kind of where we are, even at the leading edge. Certainly we can do more. And so, like, what does success look like for us in this? And yeah, I have some different questions, but that was really intriguing to me. So yeah, open it up.
I should let you in. Everybody's brain is super different. It's one of the things I've learned from teaching, and also one of the things that's kind of neat about teaching programming is I get to see, in a not creepy way, their brains on the screen. How their brain organizes information and solves problems. My brain is kind of unusual, where I see words as people are talking, so I'm kind of writing your thoughts, so I'm trying not to lose all of them in the shuffle. But to me, I think simply put, success looks like CS for all. Every student And when I say every student, I mean 100%. We're meeting our special education students where they need it. We're meeting our English as a second language students where they need it. We're tapping shoulders of students who aren't as confident to sign up for computer science using, these are amazing, these are CS ambassadors. They're literally serving that role by tapping the shoulders of their peers and their friends and debunking some of the myths that come along with computer science and making sure that they're feeling welcome. We're softening our classrooms so that they're not just a bunch of black boxes, but that they're decorated with art and encouraging collaboration and making students feel like they can join up. Some of the things, and if I say if any district can do it, we can do it, because I do think there are some things that make West Hartford extremely unique in that we really believe in AP as a means for kids to be able to transcend. Meaning that we really try to lower the roadblocks for why a student could take AP and allow them to be able to then be successful in college courses. Because some statistics, if it wasn't for an AP course for me, I know I wouldn't have continued on to college. College for me was a question mark even when I was in high school. I just didn't know because my mom had never gone. To me, it was optional. But I took an AP US history class, and the teacher there happened to be my cross-country coach, like Mr. Belling over here. And if it wasn't for him tapping me on the shoulder and saying you could do it, I really needed that. So I think that there's some culture things in West Hartford that make us uniquely able to reach more students. We've also really worked hard to create a lot of on-ramps for students to be able to take computer science courses. So we really hope that every student that intends to study at a college or university would take one of the two APs, AP Computer Science Principles or AP Computer Science A, before they graduate. But we have multiple on-ramps, including exploring computer science, which Kevin benefited from. Is it your first and only computer science this year? So not every student requires the on-ramp, but certainly we've provided several. There's intro to computer science. There's, I'm not going to be able to list them all, partly because my heart is beating. Computer technology. There's just recently cryptography and cybersecurity, which is a course that's got a real history base to it. It also has an emphasis on staying safe online. All of these multiple on-ramps for kids, and we would like to offer more, because more on-ramps, we think, breed more introductions and ways for students to be able to have experiences with computer science. They provide ways for students to eventually still want to build up the confidence to be able to feel like they can be successful in the APs. But I think that the missing piece right now, and I think the big piece of biggest focus, is our focus on now integration. That more courses, more teachers would consider integrating computer science in their course in creative ways that only they, combined with someone who knows computer science well, could think of. And that's what this position really is offering for us. I could go and meet with a teacher who teaches art or music or whatever, and I'm sure that between the two of us, it's one of my favorite things to do. We could create a creative solution, an exposure for students that would help them to feel brave enough to take computer science before they graduate. I also think that integration happens at younger levels too. So starting at the elementary and the middle school, getting those true integration experiences. Not an hour of code is wonderful. It's an amazing experience for students. It provides a neat exposure, but true integration means that you're using computer science as a tool to teach the course better or uniquely. And that only happens if both the teacher and someone who knows computer science really well is in the room. And that takes time. It takes a lot of time. And so to answer your question, where we are in the very beginnings, but we are ahead of the curve because most districts don't have this position. Most districts do not have this vision. Most districts, are still working out the kinks of how to offer one computer science, right? 50% of schools in the country don't offer any. So we're on the way. We are an on-ramp in a sense too. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Particularly about the how to introduce computer science to existing teachers, existing staff that can utilize it in interdisciplinary ways that that lift up the subjects they're already teaching, the ways that they're doing it. So that makes a lot of sense. I didn't put those links together. Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to thank you for the presentation, as well as the students. I give you a lot of credit for coming up and sharing your thoughts and speaking and addressing the board. I don't like speaking at these much myself, so I really appreciate your willingness to do that. I'm going to follow your metaphor with the on-ramp, because my question is related to, has there been any exploration of how many students, what's the percentage of students who take one of those on-ramp courses who actually continue on and take multiple courses in computer science? Because I think that would really speak to kind of the level of engagement that students feel. And as we know, I think it's great if all students experience one computer science course, but I'm always one for more is better. So I'm just wondering, that could help in terms of building that curriculum, and what are the on-ramp courses that really stick with kids, and have those, what are the courses that students choose and continue on in the field?
Sure. I'll start with a stab, and I haven't prepared the more than one sort of an analysis, but it's an interesting question, Ari, because as I've talked with Jackie and I've talked with Brian Cohen, who's our department supervisor for career and technical education, and Michelle Graveline and Monique Albani, that you both saw, our math department supervisors, and they have in their department a significant number of computer science courses. They share teachers, they share responsibilities on the different sides of town. One of the things we do talk about is we want the on-ramp experiences. We also want to be careful that we're not creating a collection of prerequisites that become an obstacle. But I am very curious about that. What the statistics I have now, and it just gives me an opportunity to share them on a kind of related note, is I know on the slide it talked about 47% of the current graduating class has taken or is currently enrolled in a second semester computer science course. That's 345 students out of the 734 students in the graduating class. What's interesting is if we say we're looking at gaps, and I know the gap that we identified was really the male-female, but when you're looking across race ethnicity, I was astounded that our metrics for the number of students, black students, Hispanic students, special education students for the graduating class matched exactly the demographics, or within 1 percentage point of the graduating class. So the graduating class is 10.8% special education, 11.3% of the students who have taken a computer science course are students with an IEP. We have slight overrepresentation among our Asian by about 5%, slight underrepresentation among our white students, but the other numbers are essentially dead on. So the question is, what about the preparation and how many courses have students taken? And for me, it goes back a piece to those onboarding opportunities that we have. And as you read in the report, in middle school, we do have an assured computer science type experience built into our technology rotation within the UAs for every single student. And so now one of our big lifts, how do we create that at the elementary level as we start to think about strategic professional development in a huge lift. But I think your question really blends into where the future goes with this, and especially, we know how quickly technology changes, so how do we stay current, relevant, and how do we assess, are the courses that we're delivering meeting the needs? Does it need to be one or two? The students that are, to Ethan's point, the students that are more successful down the road, which courses did they take? How many did they take? All very important questions that we need to continue to monitor in order to do this the right way and achieve the goal of really standing out, which is what we're hopeful for.
Thank you.
Deb and then Gail.
Go ahead, Gail. I'm still formulating my question.
Okay, Gail.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to clarify, when you say that 47% of the students have taken a course, then that would mean that the other percentage has not taken any course. and computer science. And is that true? I was a little bit confused. You said, though, that in the middle school, it is kind of worked into the curriculum?
Correct. So in the middle school, they have the UA rotations that are about 5 to 6 weeks. And there is a UA rotation related specifically to technology and engineering. And so in each grade level, I think it was 2 years ago, they revamped the curriculum so that at least one of those units was in and around computer science. I believe in the 6th grade, it's, I think it's robotics driven. In the 7th grade, it's a little bit of programming with the robotics. And in the 8th grade, they begin to touch on HTML coding. So they've all had an experience, but it's a couple of weeks.
So I just, maybe you can answer this question for me. Given the importance of this, obviously, this material around multiple careers as you go forward in life, is there any thought to make this mandatory in high school, so that kids...
Great question. We actually, it's something we talked about when the new graduation requirements came out and we were doing a presentation to the board at the time. Part of the new graduation requirements require 9 credits of STEM. And we sort of kicked around and debated and talked out loud, would we make computer science a named requirement within those 9 STEM? Currently within those 9 STEM, we do have a named requirement for 3 credits of mathematics. We have a named requirement for a life science and a physical science, which is typically biology and chemistry, but it doesn't have to be. There's options. And we talked about that. And at the time, we said, if, to Jackie's point, computer science for all, do we have all of the programming, all of the courses, all of the onboarding to support our English language learners, to support our students with disabilities, specifically those with significant cognitive impairments, et cetera, are we all the way there yet? So the short answer is, have we thought about it? Yes, and we're still thinking about it. But we feel like there's good work to be done before we name it as a requirement. And my goal with this update, we had a presentation to give you an update every year if you ask for it, but if you don't, we'll program it for every couple of years regardless, so that you know what the direction is, what those metrics are, where we're succeeding, where we're putting in effort, and how it all gets supported in the larger budget and structures that we have.
Other questions? Are you ready? Do you have a question? No? All right, other questions? Yes, Jason.
All right. Thank you for preparing the information on the demographics and the equity analysis of students who have taken these courses. And I think it's worth, I think, exploring a bit, because when we think about what computer science is, as you said, solving problems, right? Who has computer science in their toolbox determines what problems computer science is applied to. And so ensuring that we create that toolbox for everyone is super important for the equity, the access to that problem-solving toolbox. And so, I really like what you were saying about the high school requirement and the kinds of, background work that would need to be done. Are there particular target areas that you see as important for increasing the participation of girls in computer science? Like, is it a grade band? Is it a particular program, mentoring, outreach?
Again, I think it's never one solution. Yeah. It's a hybrid, right? But I think first, the computer science ambassadors make a huge difference. It really helps students to see someone who looks like them, and also is telling them, welcoming them. Welcome, Matt, is a really important thing. And the difference that students have made by being there. In the same way that, Alex, you had said someone was there for you, you're exchanging that and sort of paying it forward now for someone else. That's just beautiful. And I think that's how real change happens, is slow and purposeful and like that, sort of a chain reaction. There's a couple other things that are definitely in the works as well. Conard is currently planning a girls' esports event, which is kind of exciting. Again, particularly targeting girls and to be able to welcome them in the door. Both schools offer esports, which is, if you've never heard of it, is really pretty cutting edge. Colleges recruit for it. It's competitive video gaming. I was just after school with the team and they were training with me today because they need to learn how to help somebody who doesn't have experience with video gaming. And so they were teaching me how to hold the device to control the game. I was just happy I made the car move, like full disclosure. That was super exciting for me. But so there's events like that now what did those students learn by meeting with me? They learned how little I knew, and yet I'm teaching them how to program in Java. So what does that say about our different shared experiences, right? So they're learning quite a lot from that, and that means that we're not empowering not just our female students, but also our male students to go out with open eyes and think a little bit about why is it that they had those experiences that I did not. So again, I think it builds slowly. I think real change happens slowly. Another is at both schools we have these clubs called YSTEM, or Women in STEM. They're really taking a leadership role in trying to mentor middle school students. We're working on trying to work out the kinks on how we can maybe do some video conferencing to make that happen from the high school to the middle school. And I am not a night person. Forgive me. Would you be able to say a couple things maybe about your own experiences, or maybe what's here there now that wasn't there before?
Yeah, I mean, well, in my own computer science class, I'm taking AP Computer Science A, and I'm one of 5 girls in a class of like 25 students. So there's definitely a minority for females, but like everyone that I've been talking to who wants to take computer science next year has been female. So like it's really good to see like that go up, like especially for like the numbers.
One last piece I'll add. One of our efforts that is still, something I think in the beginning stages is that professional development for school counselors. That we want, number one, we want them to be knowledgeable about the field because it's not necessarily something that they grew up with or have direct knowledge about. It's part of the larger program that we have, but they're an interface with kids, and they're definitely going to help to be that interface to say, especially to our females who are our underrepresented group, to say, have you considered it? You should talk with this student. If that connection hasn't been made naturally through friends and peers, to certainly have some of that adult direct intervention to help with it, and to make them understand the importance of it in general is something they need to promote with all students. So that's another part of our big effort. And when we go back to our district team that we put together, it's one of the reasons why we selected and ensured that we had representation of our school counselors on there, because they play a very critical role.
Just if I could ask a follow-up, can you share some of the apps that were developed? What?
Hackathon, you mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Do you want to take that, or? Yeah.
Okay. One of my favorite ones that we came up with is so at Conard, the basis of the hackathon was we were pretty much told to identify a problem that is in our schools and create an app that aims to solve said problem. And so my group during the hackathon noticed that during the lunch waves, sometimes the lines can get pretty hectic. And there are a lot of kids who actually, they are so into many different things at Conard that they actually drop their lunch to take more classes. And so they are in a rush to go to the cafeteria, get something to eat really quickly so they can go back to class. And there's a really long line, so it's kind of hard to, not be on time, be on time to class. And so for our app, we created a app that sort of sends your order to the cafeteria. And so that way it can be prepared for you, and then it can be put in a safe area for you to just grab and go, pick up your lunch. Yeah, I think we called it Conard Quick Cafe. Yeah, that's what we called it. Yeah, and I was very proud of the name.
Were you there? I'm terrible with names and dates and times and remembering little detail, the smaller details. But I think what was neat for me for the hackathon was seeing some of the students came dressed in there was a bumblebee theme. There were a bunch of students that were wearing last year's. This is the new this year T-shirt for computer science, but last year's T-shirt. It was just a real vibe of teamwork and chemistry. That part I will not forget. It was super fun at both schools, and we fed them well. Students definitely ate very well, and frankly, we needed this. It's been a couple years of where people have just been aching for that sense of community. So they turn because of all the teamwork, so many people working together to make this happen for students. We were able to just create this beautiful. I'll never forget it. It was just beautiful to see the students working together to be able to solve problems in their town and use computer science as a tool to do that. It was really, really cool. Yeah.
All right, well, a lot has been shared that's really, really cool. And I have to say, I recall, Andrew, when you were giving one of your updates and you made reference to the hackathon, and I thought I misheard you. I said, well, what? And no, certainly it was something, and hearing more about it, just absolutely wonderful, wonderful presentation. And if I may ask, Alex and Kevin, recognizing from the presentation and from the information we received, where it says, as a discipline, computer science is grounded in logic, problem solving, and creativity. May I ask you to share, recognizing what it's grounded in, what have you learned new about yourself that maybe you thought you may not have experienced without taking this course?
Well, I can definitely say from personal experience that I am not a logical thinker. I definitely do not approach problems in a way that's very methodical. Not linear, yes, that's the way that it could be described. My parents would definitely say other words, but yes. But through computer science, it really shows that you would think that in order for you to approach a computer science problem, you would need to think in a linear system. But through the courses that I've taken, it really doesn't matter where you approach a problem because it can be solved in many different ways. I think it can even be connected to math courses, how you can solve an algebraic expression with many different methods of the way that you were taught to solve a algebraic expression. There are many ways that you can approach the same problem but still come to the same answer. And so with that, I can say that computer science really helped me see that the way I think won't stop me from approaching the same problems that someone who is more logic-based can approach. So, yeah.
So for me, I agree with everything that Kevin said. And so whenever I have to make a code, I usually write down what I have to do first because that's how I organize my thoughts. And then I go through the methods I've learned. I'm this goes here, and whatever. But there's no right code. There's so many different ways to do it. So it's really just what your brain is thinking. So as long as the code works, you're good. But even for the creativity aspect, yesterday and today in class, you're probably familiar with the game Wordle. We coded something very similar to that where we would find words with letters from a word and it would go through the whole entire dictionary and tell you the words. So that was a really cool thing. And so computer science has definitely given me more freedom just to explore different things and just show a different career or pathway that I was never really exposed to before.
Wow, so very proud of you, and I don't think I would be speaking out of turn by saying colleagues here are proud of the both of you as well. Senior, rising senior, soon to be, excellent job, excellent job. And with that, Jackie, I have to say, and I'm going to respectfully disagree with some of your self-criticisms because there are so many other wonderful things clearly that you are sharing with these students that's helping them to feel the confidence to learn this as they are. I mean, even as Alex was speaking and Kevin was speaking, to see you clap, I wanted to do that, or snap your fingers. That's what students need to know. It's not just about teaching at them, but teaching with them and helping them to build the confidence to learn and explore. And your energy is infectious. So bless you, and just please continue to do what you're doing, inspire others, inspire our computer science ambassadors. I mean, these are our future leaders, so excellent. And Paul, of course, thank you for your oversight and helping with all of this as well. So proud of all of you. All right. Excellent, and as they depart and show their flexibility as well, we will move on to routine matters and approval of the minutes. We are looking for approval of the minutes from the February 1st, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting. And so with that, we know that we have received recent updates with that. And so is there a recommendation that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting from February the 1st, 2022?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to information and reports. Board members, communications and reports, and I do believe we have an update or report rather from one of our boards, so passing it to Dr. Steinberg.
Yes, I would just like to, I talk loud now. I just wanted to provide an update from the Bridge Family Center. I just wanted to kind of give an up-to-date, kind of since the start of the new year, they provided me with an update. And it's pretty impressive, just in terms of the numbers served, the children and families, since the beginning of the year. So we're, a month and a half in. They have serviced 70 students or clients with the school-based counseling program, 41 mentoring students, and over 100 additional students through different groups. I just wanted to break that down because I think it's worthwhile. So with regard to school-based counseling, through the American Rescue Plan, they were able to have additional funds, which allowed them to increase by one full-time master's level therapist this school year. That allowed them to work with 66 students at one time. And as we know, there is a mental health crisis currently. So even with that being said, they're still they're maintaining a wait list of 7 students. So there are still some students that need to receive services. I'm very happy to report that they've been able to return to in-person work on the grounds of each of the schools. I do think with mental health treatment, in-person is preferable. But given that we've used virtual services and telehealth, it actually allows us the capabilities to offer maybe a student who is during school breaks, during summer, or even on snow days. So it does allow us that flexibility, having the telehealth capabilities. Some of the themes that have come up thus far with school-based counseling, some of the therapy themes are obviously anxiety and depression, some grief and loss, and school adjustment, given that a lot of kids have been, we're a district that's lucky enough to have offered hybrid, but we do have students who haven't seen a classroom for a lot of, many months. So those are some of the themes that have arisen. With regard to mentoring, the focus really is on goal setting right now, and allowing the mentees to kind of dictate kind of what goals they would like to work on, and a partnering with parents, which I think is great. The expectations is that you meet with the families 2 times during the first month of mentoring, that mentoring period, and then monthly moving forward. So really, again, bringing in the families, talking through what are the goals that their children are setting, and getting that parental involvement, which is great. With regard to groups, they have provided 11 groups so far. And just to give you a sense of what some of the groups are that are being run, within the elementary schools, they have a group, it's called Kids in Divorce and Separation, that has been running. Other groups, coping skills, classroom behaviors, and conflict resolution seem to be the themes for right now. At the middle school level, they're offering a sisterhood/girls empowerment group at 2 of the middle schools, and the 3rd will occur in the spring. And then in the high schools, they have started a smart recovery group at both high schools for those students struggling with substance abuse. The other thing, just wanted to mention other supports that they provide within our school system, providing workshops, participating in mental health panels, some of the staff participates, and assisting in crisis situations. So the bridge is doing great things.
I just wanted to again, thank you for bringing that up. I can't stress enough that how much our partnership with the bridge has really meant to us over these years, and especially this past year. As you know, as the board, you voted and approved an increase with their services, and it just has been really an invaluable asset for us to be able to look to them and have them be able to staff up so quickly and be able to go ahead and really try to meet the needs that we're seeing in the schools. And it's something that, every day that goes by, we're thankful for the work that they're doing, and we work very closely with them, Melissa's staff especially, and really we're very, very happy with what they've been able to provide us and the help they've been able to provide our families.
And I mean, as someone who works in the field in terms of outpatient therapy services, the wait lists are very long. And, kids spend at least 6 hours of their day in the school setting. So for them to have that access, I think is an amazing resource that we're able to offer them. So I really applaud the bridge and this partnership because, as we know, I have kids on wait lists for months at a time. So to be able to access that during the school day is an amazing opportunity. I did quickly, because I was sent 2 updates. I just wanted to give a quick update as well for the Family Resource Center and just some of the programs that they've been offering in the new year. The early learning playgroups are still happening even within the winter months. They have moved it to the Family Resource Center classroom. Prior in the fall, they were offering these playgroups outside. In the fall, they also offered 8 facilitated walks for parents and for parent caregivers and children. They also offer positive discipline parenting program this winter. There's another program in partnership with West Hartford Adult Education, which offers English for Families and Futures, it meets Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings for parents and children ages newborn to 4. Learn English within the context of raising a family and acclimating to life in West Hartford. They also offer the Parent Leadership Training Institute, which we've discussed here in Board of Ed meetings before. Another great thing that I think that they're offering is providing families with gift cards during the pandemic to help with basic needs. And then Peace Place, which provides before and after care for children attending preschool at Charter Oak. So lots of good things happening as a result of the bridge and the Family Resource Center.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ari. Any other updates? Yes, Claire.
Yes, Jen Evans sent me a report from West Hartford Community Interactive. So they just held an online virtual training session for students to encourage participation in their Escape the Vape PSA Challenge, which is open to all middle school and high school students. Students have the opportunity to hear and speak with Tricia Dahl, the Senior Research Assistant at Yale University School of Medicine, and she worked on a number of clinical trials, including a recently completed 5-year grant looking at how flavors and sweeteners affect the initiation and development of addiction to current tobacco and modified risk tobacco products. So this PSA challenge has a video submission. It's coming up on March 13th. You don't have to attend the workshop to do that. There's going to be two winning videos and a $100 gift card for the students who do the best video. They're also doing a fundraiser for their first ever Take 5 50/50 online raffle, which will kick off March 1st. The pandemic has had a really big impact on WHCI. They have done so much more coverage of events, especially when events were limited in participation. So this fundraiser is going to help them and help them get the financial support they need. The station's looking to offset the effects of the cord cutting, which resulted in the loss of nearly $16,000 last year, along with $56,000 in 2001. Their slogan is "For the community, by the community," and they hope the fundraising is something the community will support so they can stabilize the funding and also help more in the community. The drawing will be held on April 1st, so please stay tuned for more information.
Thank you so much, Claire. Any other updates? All right. Now, we certainly have important updates. We are going to hear from Andrew, who's going to speak on behalf of not only Conard, but also on behalf of Hall as well. So, Andrew, to you.
Great, yeah. I'll start with Conard just because I have that right in front of me. The past 2 weeks definitely had a lot of developments in sports. Most sports have been finishing up their regular seasons and swinging into class or statewide tournaments. So like track had their class L and LL tournaments over the weekend, and that's the most recent one. But also over the past 2 weeks, we had a return for spectators. I think that started actually the night of our last board meeting. So Conard hockey, that's been drawing large crowds. Conard and Hall actually played each other last week, and I heard one estimate that almost around like 700 people went to it, and I went, so there were definitely a lot of people there, and it was just really great, really interesting, and you could tell there was like an environment there, a good competitive environment. Also, boys basketball, that's been another very popular winter sport for spectators. The student section at Conard has been keeping in line having different themes. So the last one was like winter themed, people dressed up with ski goggles and items like that. And also because of the return for visitors, there was a halftime event, festivities, and yeah, they've definitely been trying to take advantage of the fact that we can finally all view these sports together. Also, in theater, the SPS Fest, which was a joint program between Conard and Hall at the Playhouse on Park, occurred last week. And also there was a Shakespeare reading contest. A senior at Conard named Declan Smith won, and so now he's moving on to the next round, where he has the chance to win a scholarship to a week-long Shakespeare reading camp in England. So we're wishing him luck with that. Chinese New Year has been happening, and so Chinese classes at Conard decorated window displays in the main hallway. There are 3 of them for the different levels, so if you're in Conard, definitely look for those. As was previously noted at the meeting, we've been actively monitoring mascot names that have been suggested, and as he said, we have about 180 responses as of 2 days ago. The last thing I'll note is tomorrow we're having a Black History Month event, and that's been, from talking to people who've been involved in the planning, it really seems like it's going to be great. It's during Community Block, it's 1 hour long, and Community Blocks last or last time, so 2 weeks ago, had the option of choosing one of 3 panels, either medicine, STEM, or mental health, and based on that, they're going to have a different topic of conversation for the community block. Okay, so that's Conard. Now, I'm just, Avery sent me the hall information. Okay. So she also started with sports at the CIAC Class LL Championship for track, I'm assuming. Many hall students placed. There were multiple first place from the boys in relays. Julia Bond qualified for states in the 55-meter hurdles. Nathaniel Aronson won second place in the 1600-meter race. Kate Sanderson won third in the 3200-meter race. And Nora Hone won third place in pole vault. FEMCO is running a period product drive this week to benefit shelters in Hartford. And also Hall's 10-Minute Play Festival, the senior classes directorial debut was a success last Thursday and Friday with 10 short plays directed and produced by Hall students. February the 23rd, the Career Center is holding the Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. So that's open to all students at Hall. And also, she wanted me to mention the Black History Month panels, which I'm pretty sure they have the same setup at Hall. So students across town, all 3,000 roughly in high school, will be partaking in that.
All right, Andrew, thank you so much. Thank you. And moving on to future business. Announcement of future meeting dates. We have the next one on Tuesday, March the 1st, 2022, our regular Board of Education meeting, where we will have the presentation of the superintendent's budget right here at the Town Hall in the Legislative Chambers, 314. And then on Wednesday, March the 9th, 2022, the budget workshop, the first one, number 1, at 7 o'clock here in the Legislative Chambers, room 314. And then on Tuesday, March the 15th, 2022, regular Board of Education meeting, 7 o'clock, here in the Town Hall, Legislative Chambers, room 314. And then Wednesday, March the 23rd, 2022, Board of Education public hearing at 7 o'clock, followed by budget workshop number 2, here at the Town Hall in the Legislative Chamber, room 314. Do we have a request for any future agenda items? Hearing none, do we have any visitors here that would like to make a public comment, either here or if there may be others in the auditorium? Hearing none, we do not have an executive session, so looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned at 9:09.